Yeah. Oh, can you fill me in? Let's talk about it.
Okay, so I am here with Simon from the moodychild.co.uk. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Phil. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's good to meet you in this sense. Like we've spoke on the phone quite a lot, and
Quite a few times, and
yeah,
by messenger and stuff, and actually face to face. So this is the next step towards that final meet, I suppose.
yeah. This is it, which I hope does happen at some point. It'd be
Yeah,
good
me
to
too.
sort of sit and have a proper talk with you. So the Moody Child, I found out about you. Someone tagged me in a post that you'd put on social media, and you were looking at sort of helping out a couple of charities with your organisation. So, do you want to tell us a bit about that and what the Moody Child is?
Yeah, sure. So I was working for a company in Leeds, and I'd always worked in the corporate field and never actually had my own business. And at that particular point, I was doing a lot of hours and lots of travelling, and I've got a young family as well. And I kind of just got to a point where I thought I just need more than this. So I decided to leave that job and try and set up on my own. So I'd always been techie. I'd always been involved in computers and programming and design. So I started the Moody Child up.
So,
This was towards the end of last year.
So you've got a job and
Yes.
you've got a regular income and you've got a family, and then you're thinking, I'm just going to give all that up and do my own thing. Was that a conversation you had with your wife, and how did that
go?
go?
It was. She thought I was mad. I mean, we had sort of some savings, but the idea was that there's I wanted to focus on small businesses, charities, startups, entrepreneurs. That sort of real niche rather than larger organisations. There's plenty of other companies out there that are targeting the larger organisations and offering bigger services with more people, but it's just me. So I spoke to my wife and said, I really want to do this. And at that point as well, my dad had, so my dad's got motor neurons, and he was diagnosed a few years ago. And at that point, it makes you sort of reassess like where you are, what you're doing, where you're going, what direction your life's taking. So coupled with that and sort of unhappiness with working for this large corporate in Leeds, I sort of spoke to my wife and said, I really want to try this thing. I can always go and get another job at some other point in the future if it doesn't work out. What do you think? And she said, well, go for it. Just follow your heart. And I wanted to just do something that I could sort of show my dad that I'm doing on my own, standing on my own 2 feet, doing something good, doing something I enjoy. So I started the Moody Child. Now, at that point, there was no mention of COVID. There was no issues with kind of what we're facing today. So that was a really good idea at that time. But obviously the reality has sort of worked out somewhat different. But I started it, got things set up, made the plan to get the business started. So it went registered at the beginning of the year. So I think it was January we sort of got incorporated. And then it was, okay, let's start getting some customers. So I put out the post on social media, and you responded. I wanted to sort of help initially charities really, because I obviously needed an income and I wanted to get customers on board, but I needed to obviously build a portfolio. It's that kind of chicken and egg situation that you need to prove that you can do something. People aren't necessarily willing to pay for it until you've got that proof, but you can't get proof unless you've done something. So I thought if I can aim at sort of charities to build up the portfolio, which is where we met. And I did the site for you. And also on the back of that, there was another charity that contacted me as well. And I helped them. I did a site for them. So they're called Standfast, standfast.uk. And they're some ex-offenders that sort of come out and want to help other people in that sort of prison environment or ex-offenders themselves through the sort of spoken word and poetry, etc. So we went through that design process of, what do you want? And we don't know. And Well, I don't know either. You need to tell me. Which is always the way with customers and always the way with clients. You know, they always have this great idea, but they sort of expect you to have the idea before
Yeah.
you've got any content from them. But we got through it. We worked through, produced a good site, and they've taken that, and that's helped them out. And obviously, I did the site for you, which hopefully you like, and I see that you've been adding to it, which is good to see.
Yeah, the site's brilliant, and just on Stanfast, so it's somebody I know called Dalton, and they do loads of like theatre stuff. They're trying to take theatre into prisons, and
That's right.
absolutely amazing organisation. So if anyone's not heard of them, they should definitely look them up. But yeah, I when I saw the post, so I've had a web domain for 3 years, maybe 4 years.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I was promised a website by somebody, and then they let me down. And it took about, I know nothing about building websites. All I know is I got sent this list of codes, and I forwarded those codes on to somebody else, and then they started building a website. Now, if I search my domain name while they're building a website, it comes up with nothing. So I don't know. It's not like I can do like a check-in to see how far into it they are. I just have to believe what they're saying. And then it went quiet. And then I was getting no response from these people. So then I found a person was recommended to me, and this person was in recovery. And this is what their job had been, and they've left their job to focus on recovery. So they've got loads of time and loads of experience to be able to do it. So I was like, brilliant. I'm going to get a website. And then the same thing happened. And they said that there was nothing on the domain when there was nothing structural put in place. So they'd start doing it. And then they relapsed. And I couldn't get any of the sort of information from them. So in a way, I'd given up. I still paid for it because it's our email. So we needed that for our emails. But yeah, and then when you came along, I was just like, oh, is this going to be the same thing again? And I was like, look, this is where I'm at. I've been wanting a website for this many years. And I remember you saying, I'll have it done by. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when we spoke, and he was like, right, it's done. I've worked over the weekend. Was it? I can't remember what the weekend was, but there was an occasion. I don't know if it was your daughter's birthday or there was something that weekend, and you was like, but I made sure that I wanted to get it done, and I told you I'd have it done for this point, and you did. And I finally had a website.
It was good to see as well, because I think it was towards the end of the week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday that we initially spoke. You gave me the domain information, the codes, etc., and then sort of I accessed it, got something turned around quite quick. I think it was quite quick just to get a landing page, just to get our site's being developed at the moment. Come back to us in a bit.
Yeah.
And even that, I think your reaction was priceless. I think you posted something and you sent me the video, and it was so funny to see. It's like an excitable kid that's finally got given the toy that he's always wanted. But you know what, though, mate? It was nice to see, because it was the reaction. That for me was one of the reasons for doing it. That real sense of, I've really helped someone. I haven't done anything yet. All I've done is I've literally just taken it a step forward as part of the process that I do anyway. But your reaction was just priceless.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we've had a Facebook page for a long time, but I could start a Facebook page for anything. I could have an idea now and say, all right, let's do a website where we're going to sell pennies for £1. And I can make a Facebook page and it'll go out of business because no one will buy a penny for £1. But the simplest thing of it is you could do anything. You can start a Facebook page for anything. But with a website, it's an official, this is my organization. This is, when people say, when you meet them, and like, oh, have you got a business card? And it's like, yeah. And like, oh, your website's not on there. It's like, so funny story. So 3 years ago, then we go through the whole got let down. And now I can get, well, I mean, I've got to get new business cards, but I can get business cards with a life experience website on, and it's something that we've never had. I was excited when we first got email, because it's not phil@gmail.com or like a generic email anymore. But for somebody like me who's never had stuff like this, it really does sort of mean a lot. And the way that you could help, because we don't get an income. Unless we get funding to deliver a project, that's the only income we get. But you have to be very specific in funding. So we want 20 grand, 10 grand is going to be on salary. So that's wages. Then we've got payroll costs. We've got, I don't know, equipment. We've got this much for petrol for the duration, this much for lunches for the duration. So there's never any money left over. So everything I've ever paid for through life experience has come after I've paid tax and national insurance. It then comes out of my wage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's partly why I've never gone to an organisation that says, can you build me a website? Because we don't have funding to be able to do stuff like that. And it's very rare you find a funder that will give you stuff as a startup. So when we spoke, it was one of those where like, oh, what, there's going to be something hidden, like it's going to be done, and it's going to be like, right, it's locked now. I want £500, and we'll
I'd be going straight to hell if I did that. I wouldn't do that. No, I wanted to do charities just because, again, with Dad and being involved in the sort of motor neurons sort of charity.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Just in case people don't know what it is.
Yeah, so motor neurons is a really rare condition. And it's what afflicted Stephen Hawking. You know, he's the most well-known public figure that sadly suffered from motor neurons. So it's still not really well understood. There's a lot of research going into the potential cause of the disease, but what makes it more hard to actually diagnose is the actual effects or the progression of the disease is different depending on each person. So your genetic makeup, your DNA, play a part in how the disease progresses if you do get it. And there's not a test that they can do. They can't take like a blood test. They can't do a scan and say, you got it. There's lots of tests that they do over time. And each of those tests gradually start to point to different diseases. So Dan was diagnosed probably about 3 years ago. And at that point, he'd worked all his life as an electrician, as always working outside, always very physical, very manual work, looking forward to his retirement and stuff. And then he started noticing that he was a bit unsteady on his feet, or he'd take a tumble or trip over something, or whatever it might be. And so he went to his doctor and sort of said, I've noticed that I just every now and again feel a bit unsteady. And then it progressed and progressed. So he was finally diagnosed. It took a while, but we finally got the diagnosis that we not wanted, but we at least needed, because then we've got a thing to point at and say, you're the thing that's causing this, So, and then as a family, you can then sort of work out how you can help or do something to assist. So with him, it's affected his walking. He's got no strength in his legs. He also with him, his speech and his breathing is very, very impaired. He's actually banked his voice, which is quite a funny thing. So there's a cool charity in the States, and they're all about digitizing your voice. So Stephen Hawking used to sort of look at the screen and come up with a speech, and he wouldn't type or anything else, but the computer was doing the talking for him, and that was using a digitized voice. But what they've done now is you can actually digitize your own voice with this charity. Wow. And you have to record loads and loads of sentences, loads of paragraphs, loads of words. And what they do is they build a profile of your voice as much as they can. And then after you've done all the investment in reading, you get this recording back, and they say, right, okay, play with it. And you can play with the speed and the intonation and the way that he says certain words and vowels and things. And then you get Dad's voice. And it's just mad, because you can literally then type in anything to a computer or a phone. Dad's voice.
I would have so much fun with something like that.
I did, because Dad had asked me to do it because he couldn't quite work it out himself. So I did a voice for Dad, and I made it sound as close to his voice as possible. And then on a call that I had with him and Mum, I sort of put it on speakerphone and typed something into the computer, and Dad spoke to Dad and Mum. And it was hilarious. I was getting Dad to say all sorts of things that Dad would never say. Like, I love salad and I love drinking water, and it was funny, but it was sad at the same time. But you have to make light, But Yeah, a cool charity in America that.
So how far
helps
into it
MND.
was these recordings? Like, has his speech already started to go?
Yeah, so it was. Some people don't actually get afflicted with a speech. Some people, it will be they'll lose their motor function, their hands, their arms, their legs. Others, so motor neurons affects all of your muscle function, with the exception of it doesn't affect your brain at all.
Okay.
So you can be completely aware, completely conscious, but almost be trapped in your own body. You can't move or articulate if you lose your voice, which is just such a horrible thought. But luckily with Dad, he still has some ability, but his condition is different from someone else's and someone else's. It's so different, which makes finding a cure that much more difficult.
Yeah.
And also because it only affects, I think it's like 1 in 10,000 people or something. It's very, very rare, or maybe even more than that actually. But there's not many people within the world that actually have it at any one point, because the life expectancy is actually quite low as well.
Right.
So with Stephen Hawking, it was the exception. He was, a miracle man that lived for so long and did so many amazing things. So, but with Dad, it's been 4 years, and so he's still with us, thankfully. But I wanted to get involved in a charity to at least give back to a charity, because they do so much for him. It's not his charity yet, but I'd like to do something for them. But just a charity in general, it gives you a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, living in Leeds and supporting Leeds Rhinos, Robbie Burrows has just been diagnosed. Well, I say just, it's in this sort of last year. And I think especially in the rugby league world, it's really opened up people to understanding of what this is. And he's a Leeds legend, but he's a legend throughout the game. He's this 5 foot something, 5 foot nothing rugby player, and he made such an impact in the game. And when the first time I heard about it was an interview with him, and he was talking very differently, and it was such an emotional interview to hear, because he's this sort of tiny little but larger than life sort of personality, and just to see the difference in him, it touched everyone. The Leeds and Wigan have just played, and Wigan had each player had Robbie Burrows with a sort of hyphen and then a word that represented him from that person. So it was like hero and strength, stuff like that. And that's one of our biggest rivals that did that for him. So it sort of shows you the sort of effect that it had on other people.
Yeah, it's the human side, isn't it? It's just such a horrible disease. It's not. I mean, obviously, any disease is horrible, but at least, I think it's because it's so obscure, and because so many people don't really know much about it and don't realise the impact that it has, and the fact that it is terminal, it is completely debilitating, and not many people get it. So there's not much funding. The charities have to be completely self-funded. Obviously, during COVID, they normally rely on a lot of charity events and sponsorship deals and runs and things that people do for sponsorship, but they've not been able to get any of that. So if people want to give anything, then it's the MND is the actual charity name, and we could maybe put a link or something in the comments.
On the bottom of the screen.
I'll get the actual website, but yeah, they're amazing what they do, and the fact that they give as much as they can to the people and families. If you need support or if you want counselling, or that's all open for free, and there's different regional offices for MDA. So yeah, fantastic charity.
Okay, so what's the future for the Moody Child?
Yeah, so I started obviously in the beginning of the year, and I was doing the charity sites, and bit by bit. As you start out a new business, you've got aspirations that it's going to be a hit from day one, and everyone's going to be calling you up, and everyone's going to be hitting your website. And obviously then reality hits, and then obviously COVID hit, which wasn't ideal. So in terms of trying to attract new work and trying to attract new business, even more difficult when those businesses are then closed and they don't want to take on an investment. But with a website, it opens up your business, and especially with COVID, businesses, I think it's 35-40% of businesses don't have a website, which is crazy. considering that everyone else does. Competition will. So I've been getting more and more business now, which is good. All coming from word of mouth. People that I've done sites for have recommended me to other people, which is great. Advertising, I've not got a fantastically huge budget for advertising, so to get referred feedback is good, and to get referred work is good. Advertising on Google and Facebook and places. So I've got quite a bit of work on at the moment, but just trying to keep that ball rolling really, and just web design and hosting and business services, sort of business email, etc. Anything that a business really needs to get their idea or to get their business online. It's not just about a website, not just a dumb website. Websites are now so much more than that. The fact that people use their phone maybe even more than they use their computer now. The trends, if you look at the devices that are being used, people need to think about how people use and interact with the site. So now everything's mobile first and mobile centered, so that it looks nice and comes across nicely on your phone, and it also looks nice and looks great on your website, and it looks good on a tablet and whatever else people want to use. So it's not just about a web page with some text and a fancy picture and a nice logo. It's more, you can get, most businesses have got another aspect that they could bring online, whether it's be interacting with their customers in a new way, selling their products and services, selling themselves. If they want to sort of promote content, then the web page is the best way of doing it, because you can make it a blog, you can sort of document about every aspect of your life, you can add that to your site. The way that you do that now is so much easier than it's ever been before, and it's getting easier all the time. You can integrate with Facebook, you can integrate with Twitter, all that social media side. You can really interact with the website now, make it as a really good, inviting, media friendly place.
Yeah, it scares me. I mean, the only thing I cross-share is if I post anything on Instagram, it automatically posts to Facebook.
Right.
That's about as technical as that gets for me. But yeah, I remember you saying that our website is capable of doing so much more than what I've really sort of taken advantage of. So we're doing obviously the podcasts, and none of them are on the website.
But they will be. We've talked about this.
Yeah,
I'll show you how to
get
do it,
them
so you
on
can
there.
do it yourself.
But even things like, so a couple of years ago, there was a team of life experience. There was anything up to sort of 8 of us. And I was always saying, whenever you go do something, whether it's at a women's hostel, whether it's in a prison, whether it's at a school, as soon as you leave that session, go outside, put your phone in front of your face and talk about it.
Yeah.
Just do a little video, pre-record it, and we'll put it out, or go live on Facebook. Just talk about what it is you've done, because what better time to do it than if a session's gone really well, coming out and you've got that bit of like that was ace.
Exactly. You've got that buzz.
Talk about it now.
And plus, also, you don't forget anything either. That's the thing. Everything you've just gone through, the longer you leave it, you'll miss key things you want to talk about.
So I want to get back to that, because what I've realized recently through doing these podcasts is people shy away from not bragging, but talking about stuff that goes well. We don't want to seem braggy. So, we're very sort of humble when we talk about what we do. And
I think that's a British thing. I do think that's a British. I think we need, if you've put the work in and something's gone well, there's absolutely no reason that you shouldn't talk about it. Because
we're quick enough to do it for other people. Like I say, when you did that, for me, that was a massive thing. So I'm like, oh, this guy is amazing. And I've been waiting this long, and it's been however many years, and I've been let down, and a couple of phone calls, and now I've got this thing, and he's done all this, and he's done it over this time, and like he's worked all weekend, and and it was, that for me was brilliant. If I would have done something like that for somebody, I'd have just said, oh yeah, it's done. There you go. There's your. And it wouldn't be like I've in this short time between sort of Wednesday and Saturday, with very little information and contact, I've managed to create this amazing thing, and look how sort of pleased the customer is. I wouldn't do that.
It's weird, isn't it? It's such a strange thing. But I enjoyed doing the site, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do my own business, because I like being in control of my own destiny. But also, every time you give a client, or you deliver the client the project, just to see their reaction, it's not maybe as excited as you were when I gave yours, but it was at least, but you really get that I've put my soul into this thing that I've produced for them. And whatever it might be, you know, you want to make sure that you've understood the brief correctly, you've got the requirements correctly, you've understood what they're trying to, either what they're trying to solve, what they're trying to convey. And obviously because it's such a creative thing, you need to make sure that you really understand the client. You need to get a sense of them as well. It's quite a personal thing, quite a personal experience. But when you get it right, which, you know, most times we do, obviously there's part of the design process is you do something and if it doesn't work and you redo it, and that's fine. But it's great. It's a really good sense of achievement. I love doing the first, right, I've put something together, what do you think? Yeah. And there's always that, is it going to go well? Is it going to go bad? But I love that. I really, really like it because, you know, 9 times out of 10, it goes brilliantly well. And you get that real sense of, I love it. And it looks great. And I love the way that you've done this. And I love that and love this and whatever it might be. It's such a good feeling. Every time I do it, it doesn't get old.
How does it feel when you have that 1 out of 10? Does it feel like
a bit of a kick in the teeth? Not really. All I would do is I would just question what I didn't pick up in the first place, where I went wrong, or what went wrong. And so it's not as much it went wrong, it's just what didn't I understand, or what didn't the client give me. And we'll work through it, and then it's, you know, it's like anything you're designing, creating something, you don't get it right straight away. It's part of a process of give and take, and then bit by bit you kind of chip away at the block to reveal the statue that they wanted all in the first place. But all they see at first is the block, and so you need to sort of just keep chipping away at it. But that's fine. It's good, but you still get a sense of achievement that you've actually, at the end, when you deliver it, you always get the project over the line. You always get the thing done.
I spoke to a guy called Ben Buddy Slack, and he's got a project called the Swan Song Project. Right. And he goes into hospices and meets people towards the end of their life, and they write a song together. Sometimes the family know about it, sometimes they don't, and then it's just played at the funeral, and Ben gets invited to the funerals and all sorts. And it's an amazing project. And I said to him, there must be a lot of pressure. And again, I'm saying this to you, you've got somebody like me who's wanted this, who's created a company from nothing. And I think certain people have already know what this is supposed to look like, but can't articulate it to you. So you have to sort of achieve this impossible goal. But do you feel pressure, or is it just excitement?
A little bit of both. I mean, I know that I'm capable of delivering the project that they want, as long as I've understood the requirements properly. So there is a little bit of pressure because you always want to make sure that you do a good job for the client. But yeah, it is a nervousness, an excited nervousness when you deliver the project, or when you give the first demonstration, the first show and tell of this is the first thing that they're going to see the website. What do you think? But yeah, I don't really necessarily feel the pressure. I don't want to do a bad job, but then the good thing with clients is they'll always tell you if you do. So you always know. They're never going to go, that's really great, thanks very much, and walk away and go, do you know what, that is a pile of... they'll tell you there and then. So the feedback that you get, it's quick. So one way or another, you know that you're on the right track, or that you know you need to kind of backtrack and then get back on the right track. So it works itself out.
Yeah. What's the Moody Child? Where did that come from?
So, you know, you want a cool, quirky name for your business, don't you? Yeah. And I was thinking about what I can call the business and stuff. And everyone, when they first start their business, everyone gets really sort of hung up on name and logo. They don't think about the content. They don't think about how they're going to sell it. They don't think about it's right. What are we going to do? Okay, cool name and logo. And I kind of couldn't think what to do. And I've got two children, 2 girls. And my youngest one at the time was having a bit of a tantrum. And she was just giving, I was literally sat at my table and I'm thinking what to call it. And she kind of came over and asked me for something. I gave her the answer that she didn't want. And she went off in a strop and a bit of a huff and had a bit of a tantrum. And I was like, right, I'm going to call it the Moody Child. and that's it. So the Moody Child, there's a pink face, a pink smile within the logo, and that's kind of like a nod to my daughter being Moody Child.
So is she expecting percentages of incomes, or?
I'm never telling her that story. She'll expect just sort of a complete free reign on pocket money forever and not doing anything as her commission. So no, it's I quite like it. It's obviously the logo I can probably change at some point, but I quite like the name, and it's quite nice as well because it's a good talking point. People sort of see it, and especially parents, they smile and go, "Yeah, we've got one of those."
Yeah,
we get that.
You mentioned changing the logo. What, like when I started Life Experience, we didn't have a name. It was just a few volunteers that went and did talks in schools. And then when we were talking about it becoming a thing, like what the schools introduce us as, we were sat in a cafe. I think it was in Huddersfield, and there was sort of 7 of us sat around a table, and we came up with Life Experience, and then we spoke about the logo, and I was just drawing jigsaw piece puzzles. So the idea was the experience is embedded in the logo, but the word life is a part of a jigsaw piece that can be taken out, and we can replace it with prison experience, with addiction experience, with crime experience. So it's that sort of interchangeable thing. And I was introduced to a guy in Newcastle who came all the way down to help us with our company. And the first thing he said was, "You need to change your logo." The start of the meeting. So straight away, I just switched off, and I was just like, no, that was a team thing that we all came up with, and this guy's just come down here to say, change your logo.
You. Yeah.
And I was just like, so I switched off quite quickly, and we've stopped using these sort of 4 or 5 pieces, and we've just got, you can't really see it, but wrong one. Green. We've just got like the green piece that says life, and then the experience. But even with the podcast, I'm going to stop pointing because I keep going wrong. So even with the podcast, when that started, it was sort of filmy, and it was a bit of a joke on my name, and people were saying it needs to be a bit more professional. The logo was done. I sold a CD last year, so the character was done by a lad called Dave, who's a graphic designer, and then my tattoo artist took my character out of that and put it into the circle with the mic and did the writing. And I love it, and I don't care whether this lasts for a month or for 10 years, whether it becomes an income, or it will always be the same. And I'm always interested when people talk about editing something different from when they first started. I mean, maybe if your business takes a different route. Yeah. But why would you consider changing your logo? That was a really, really, really long way around asking why you would change your logo, wouldn't it?
That's all right. Well, you've never told me that story before, so it's actually quite interesting to actually get the background of your logo. Just I don't know really. I mean, I look at it as a designer. Even now, I look back at old websites and I'll go, I'd like to try and do something different with that. I'd like to change it slightly. I wish I could do. I wish I'd done it this way. I think that's part of the problem. When you're sort of creating something, you can always see something that you want to change, and other people don't see it, but you yourself go, I'm never quite happy. It's never quite enough. It's never quite finished. So with the logo, it's just very, very simple, and a lot of people just use more of a graphic, whereas mine's more textual, and it's more just the sentence itself that is kind of the logo. So just a simple blue and a simple pink for nod to my daughter, with that face, just to make it a bit more fun. But yeah, I don't know. I might keep it as it is, but just you're always designing. You're always thinking about what's the next thing that I can change and how can I kind of.
I've got some spoken word videos from when I first started. So in November it'll be 4 years since I started doing spoken word. And some of the videos, like you said about your websites, I'll look back and I'll just think, why was I in such a rush to make this video? There's one particular one where I'm walking down the quarry in Beeston, and we filmed it with a drone, but the drone doesn't pick up sound, obviously, because of how loud they are.
Yeah.
So when I got home, I watched the video on one phone while stood in the garden, and then I held another phone in the air with the voice recorder on, and I just copied what that mouth was doing on the phone and said it out loud, so you'd get the wind and it'd feel authentic.
Yeah.
But there's a line in it, and it says it's about growing up and how different things are. And before wheelie bins, we had the old like actual bins you'd pick up with a lid that came off, and it says back when wheelie bins had no wheels and they had a removable lid. But because I'm watching my mouth, it's back when wheelie bins had no wheels and they had a removable lid. And I say it like that, and I just thought, but I thought at the time that was okay and put it out. And now looking back, I'm just I just rushed everything.
Yeah.
So
just want to change it. But it's good to also see where you've come from to where you are now. So you've got that sort of line in the sand to compare yourself against. But yeah, I think you can always, when you design and create something, I think you always want to keep chipping away at it or doing something more to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, as long as, from my perspective, as long as the clients are happy, the clients like what they've got, what they've been delivered. They always come back and say, "Can we just add something else in? And can we do this? And can we do that?" And say, "Yeah, of course, that's fine. I'm not going to suddenly add another 10 pages for you, but if you want to, then you can pay for it." But yeah, I think it's just it's a very personal service, like doing web design. Even logo design is probably even more pressure, because it's trying to really interpret what that person wants, and you go through many more iterations doing logo design, I think, compared to doing web design.
Yeah, one of my friends with a beauty business wanted to change hers, and I spent maybe 2 weeks back and forth between me and a guy who was doing graphic design, and she's like, "What do you think to this? What do you think to that?" It's like, "Yeah, I like that bit of this and this bit of that." And she's like, "Oh, I don't." And and it's just like, when it's never going to come to some. I still don't know if she's actually got a new logo or not yet. But yeah, logos is a big thing. I think that's why I'm quite precious about mine.
Well, we do logos. We don't do as many. I mean, we find that a lot of people come to us with a logo already, and then we'll kind of take the colours or design from the logo and then use that to put into the website, so that you get a common theme, a branding, a thread that sort of flows throughout the site, whether it be a colour or a shape or something that you can use throughout the site. So when you look at that site, you can see that everything blends and everything matches. Or we start from scratch. We literally start with a clean piece of paper and we just start with everything. So we do the logo, we'll do the branding, we'll do the design, talk about the concept, what they want to do, what they want to achieve, what they actually want the site to do for them. Because you ask those questions and you always get a blank look back. They don't, I think, from what I've seen, most clients, they don't realise the input that they have to do to build the website is me physically building it. They've got to produce content. They've got to, if I wanted someone to produce a poster, I wouldn't just say to you, "Phil, right, produce me a poster," and not give you anything else. You'd expect to give them information, but for some reason with a website, they say, "Right, I want a website." Great. Silence.
Yeah.
And, so just trying to get the client involved. The more the client's involved, the more they can talk about their ideas, the more they can talk about what they want it to be, the better the brief is, and obviously the better the site will be at the end of it. And the quicker that I'll be able to get it done as well.
Well, we've got a project coming up called The Art of Recovery, and you're going to be designing the website for that. I'm putting in touch with Helen soon, and I'm excited to see what this one turns out like, because it's sort of
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure now. It's a collaboration between 4 different areas, so Leeds, Bradford, Kirklees and Rotherham, and it's all people in recovery, and we're going to be running poetry workshops and visual art workshops. So at the end, we're going to have all sorts of podcasts and spoken word videos, but also, because of visual art, we want some sort of gallery. So I don't have a clue what that looks like, or if you've ever done anything like that before, or if that's even possible. But yeah, I'm excited to sort of see how those conversations happen, the sort of bouncing about of ideas, and then the sort of final product.
Yep. That sounds good. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to discussing that with Helen.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll get to give you a call. But it's been really, really good to get to know more about you. Like I say, we've had quite a lot of calls over the last couple of months, but this has been nice.
Yeah, thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's been really nice to actually do this. At least we've actually spoke properly, face to face, so to speak. But we'll definitely have to arrange a meet up sooner rather than later. We could even potentially be nice to even do that with Helen, so actually get a proper design session together.
Always looking for an excuse to go to York. I absolutely love York, so we'll arrange something.
Great, thank you, Phil.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Simon.
Cheers.
Speak to you soon, mate.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye.